وطن الكرامة.
Hello, welcome to Watan al-Karama News Channel. It is 9 p.m. our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Libya's envoy to the United Nations, Ibrahim al-Dabbashi, said the Parliament Speaker Agila Saleh Guiter will meet today with the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon. Dabbashi noted that the meeting will focus on tackling means of achieving success of the Libyan political dialogue and the need to comply with the political agreement that was signed by initials the Moroccan city of Sikhirat. He noted that the only way to find a solution to the Libyan crisis begins with progress in line with the UN mission not to return to the periods before signing the agreement. Egypt's permanent envoy to the United Nations in Geneva, Ambassador Amri Ramadan, said Cairo supports the legitimate institutions in Libya, which embodies the will of the people that was expressed through free and fair elections. In his sessions on human rights briefing in Libya, Ramadan paid tribute to crucial steps taken by interim government at the level of the developments of the human rights situations, which called on the international community to lift the embargo on legitimate government and to continue to provide necessary support to national human rights bodies in order to help them in performing its function. Media sources confirmed that the UN Security Council postponed considering Libya's request to lift the ban on arming the armed forces to allow them an exceptional fight against terrorism, waiting for the results of the mediation efforts by the United Nations envoy Bernardino Leon. The sources said that 7 countries in the UN Security Council objected to the request of the interim government, internationally recognized, to lift the ban on the arming of armed forces, noting that 6 other countries agreed to request of the government, namely France, the United States, Britain, Chile, New Zealand, and Lithuania. Witnesses stressed that terrorist Daesh group raided citizens' houses in Al-Gharbiyat village, southwestern of the city of Sirte. The witness said that elements of the group have launched extensive inspections campaigns in search of weapons in Al-Gharbiyat village inhabited by Al-Furjan tribe. Terrorist Daesh group fully control of Sirte, which was handed over to them by terrorist Libya Dome militia. About the immigration crisis, MSF announced that one of its ships rescued 257 migrants were on board of the 2 boats of the Libyan coast. A spokesman for the organization says that the ship carried out rescue and is currently in the process of a 3rd rescue in international waters of the Libyan coast. He pointed out that 130 people in the first operation and 127 in the second. The spokesman said that a large number of women and children was among the migrants who were rescued and are being transferred to Italy. And still about immigration crisis, Italian Coast Guard announced that 1,151 had been rescued in Mediterranean Sea during 10 separate and coordinated processes of the Libyan shores. The Coast Guard says that it moved 105 migrants from abroad, a naval Italian ship to another ship carrying 85 people rescued last Sunday, and then was transferred 308 people belonging to the MSF or Doctors Without Borders organization to the Italian ship. Now we transfer to the international items, and now from Yemen. The death toll from an airstrike on a wedding party in Yemen has jumped to 131, medics said today, in one of the deadliest attacks on civilians in Yemen that drew strong condemnations from the UN Secretary General. It was an airstrike on a wedding reception, one of the deadliest attacks on civilians since Yemen's civil war began. More than 130 people were reportedly killed. Residents of Al-Wahij say 2 missiles smashed into into tents hosting the wedding reception of a local man. A Saudi-led Arab coalition that's been launching air attacks on Houthis since March denies involvement in the wedding party attack. They say local militia may be responsible. Among the dead were women and children, the latest casualties in war that has claimed more than 4,500 lives. As world leaders debated a diplomatic end to the Syrian civil war during the United Nations General Assembly in New York today, video posted online appeared to show the aftermath of regime airstrikes and barrel bomb on Damascus and Homs. And video posted on a social media website is said to show a plume of smoke rising after the airstrikes and people treating a wounded person. Another clip appeared to show a helicopter flying skyward, dropping that are said to be barrel bombs over Homs. Meanwhile, Russia's United Nations have agreed to look for a diplomatic end to the Syrian civil war, but clashed over the central questions of whether Syrian President Bashar al-Assad should retain power. During a 90-minute meeting, US President Barack Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed their armed forces should hold talks to avoid coming into a conflict in Syria after Russian military buildup there over the last several weeks. The United States, France and allied countries are bombing terrorist Daesh group militants who have exploited power vacuum to seize parts of Syria and neighboring Iraq. The reinforcement of the Russian military presence in the country has brought fears of accidental clashes among the forces, as well as U.S. questions about Moscow's main goal. Afghanistan's chief executive Abdullah called on Pakistan to dismantle what he called terrorist sanctuaries as Afghan forces battle Taliban militants for control of the northern city of Kunduz. The sudden fall of Kunduz was a major setback for the government of President Ashraf Ghani, which marked its first year in power today, and raised questions over how ready Afghan forces were to tackle insurgency alone. Abdullah said in his address to the United Nations General Assembly, the presence of terrorist sanctuaries and support networks in Pakistan continue to cause trouble inside Afghanistan. He added, our demands are legitimate as our people continue to suffer at hands of terrorist elements who cross into Afghanistan and indiscriminately victimize our citizens. This matter can be addressed on a bilateral basis and facilitated by trusted international partners. The Taliban has been fighting to remove the Western-backed government in Kabul since it was ousted in 2001. The insurgency has escalated this year after NATO withdrew almost all of its combat troops and focused instead on training fledgling Afghan armed forces. And now we transfer to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso's army took up position today outside presidential guards camp in the capital Ouagadougou, a day after the military chief of staff said that the elite unit was refusing to disarm after a short-lived coup. In a statement, the chief of staff called on the population of the West African capital to avoid the Ouga 2000 district, which the camp is located close to the presidency, and for residents of the neighborhood to remain indoors. In a separate statement directed at news media, the army requested that journalists stay clear of deployed troops and not reveal their position in order not to compromise the operations underway. Ouagadougou's international airport also shut today. The Presidential Security Regiment, RSP, took the President, Prime Minister and several cabinet members hostage earlier in September. Unnamed General Gilbert Dendia, the former right-hand man of ousted President Blaise Compaoré, as head of state. The coup ended after 1 week with the restoration last Wednesday of the government, which formally disbanded the special unit during its first cabinet meeting following the patch. Regular troops began disarming the RSP over the weekend. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website, www.watanilkarama.tv. Thanks very much for being with us. My greeting, Rانيا البليدي.